I'm not going to go over that. You know how to do that at the moment, but in reality I want to work on this particular part down here, which is where we want to get the meat of how he's acting and feeling this year. So we know, and take my word for it, but I'd like you to work it out. You should have that exact same pattern. You can extend it a bit further if you like. Okay, R has a value of 9, D has a value of 4, and I has a value of 9. So 2 9s are 18, and 4 is 22. And that's a 4. The same applies for the next year, 4. Once we've got 22, we don't need to repeat that until there's a change, which is coming up. The third one here, it's the same. Now we have a change in the letters between D and W. So we've got 9 and 5 and 9. 9 and 9 is 18 and 5 is 23. And that makes 5. Down here we've got another change of letters between I and T. So we've got 9 and 5 and 2. So 5 and 2 is 7 and 9 is 16, which reduces to 7, and it remains the same the next year. So this line here is called as essence. And the essence is how I feel, or how he feels this year. So this line of numbers indicates how a person feels at any given time. And you've got to relate those numbers to what they mean in a feeling, how I feel kind of way. Now I know this year for him, this guy here, he's in a personal year 5. And I did this by adding his 8 and 2 together to get 10, which reduces to 1. I add that one of those two numbers to the calendar year, which is 2011. So 2011 adds up to 4. 4 plus 1 equals 5. Okay, knowing that he's in a 5-person year, I'm going to put that down here, about here. And because the personal years run in sequence I should say, the next year would be 6, then 7, going backwards, 4, 3, and 2. Underneath that, we can put the calendar year. This year it's 2011, which is a 4-year. 5, 6, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, now we've got to add his essence to his personal year. And the combination of these two brought together, which we do call the COM for short, the combination will be when we add these up. And I'm going to use red here to highlight certain activities. First of all, when a person's in a 22 vibration, which is there those 3 years in a row, 22 is relatively emotional. So he's in a bit of an emotional state, tying up with his destiny. This means that he's in harmony with what he's doing to some degree, even though he might be trying to push things a bit hard. That's up till last year, because there's the change. I'm going to put a line through that. There's another change thereafter. Line through that, and there's a change through there. So we're looking at the 3 years previous, this year, and the 2 years following. What we have now then is he's been coming up to this particular point, and we're looking at 4 and 2. The combiner of that is 6. Nothing too spectacular on that combiner, except that that 2 probably means that there's a suppression, because the personal year is your environmental conditions, what you're standing on, what's happening around you, all around you. That's the personal year. It's what conditions are affecting you. And because 2 says slow down, be patient, quiet, go cooperate and go with the flow, don't push it. And so therefore it says you can't push it, because this is a governing type of number, or a governing condition. Then the year following, which is 2009, that's the 2009 mark there, 2011, 10 and 9. He's got a more proactive year. Things seem to pick up. But even though they're picking up in his circumstances, he's remaining fixed. How he feels with his essence line in these 3 years. So 3 and 4 is 7. Now, between the first two, this one says apply yourself. This one says slow down. And this one says slow down, apply yourself, and be responsible. Because 6 says be responsible. This is what's happening between these two. On the next one, 3 and 4 is 7. it says the environment says, okay, get going, you need to pick up speed here. He remains the same. It says, but whoa, between the two of them, can you just start to think a little bit about what you're doing? You have to be a bit more careful. Then we hit this year here, and we've got a 4 over a 4. Now when you find two numbers the same, they amplify each other. They cause things to pick up speed and heat up. So I'm going to box that, because that's significant. And 4 and 4 is 8. So here's the environment saying, we better plan things and work very hard on this. What kind of a 4 is that, by the way? We find out what kind of a 4 it is by looking at his birth date. 8 and 2 equals 10. 10 and 2009. Sorry, 2010 is the year here. And 2010 has a value of 3. So we add 3 to 10 and we find that that is a 13-4 year. So we've got a 13 in there. So here's his environment saying, hey, be careful, slow down, plan things, work hard on things. And at the top he says, well I'm really trying to get the grips of these things and really working at my one of my numbers, my career type numbers. And it says, okay, because this 8 in the middle says, are you doing anything with money or finance or big jobs or ideas? Well, I'm trying to, because he's got an 8 in a birthday. So he's really trying to work and juggle things. And this isn't really easy for a person who seems to push for money. That's my view on it. So we move into the next year, and all of this effort all of a sudden goes, why? Because 5 says, I want some freedom. I want some out of here. I want a little bit of space. I need to breathe a bit more. He's broken free of this hard-working chains, and he wants his freedom. But we've got not just a 4 over a 4 here, we now have a 5 over a 5. So 5 over 5 is 10 or a 1. And this particular combination, which I'm going to box as well, indicates an intensity in its own right, although it's a 1 in the middle. Trying to be free and having to be free, having to move. Is it possible that something came up here last year which caused him to have to leave where he was? Was the relationship going south? Did his job fall over? Did he change careers? Did his job close? Whatever, I don't know. All I've got here is his name and his birthday, but he's now come back and said, hey, I'm looking for advice online. So he's gone through, he's found the Numerology site, and he says, well, I'll throw for a free profile and see what I get. And identifying this as indicated a person is looking for something. So he certainly found something here, because there's so much activity going on, so much freedom, new direction. 5 plus 5 is 10, which comes to 1. I'm just going to squeeze a 1 in there. Bit hard to see, I'll make it black. So he's got a 1 in here, and that says, I need this new direction, something new, something whatever. What do you think this guy's going to do? He needs some advice. Why do we know that? Look at next year. 2 of these together, 16 sevens. Now the number 16 in its own right is not a number to be played with. He's in his 39th, coming up 40th year. And when you start to look at what's happening here in his life with these 2 T's, the letter T represents the truth, finding out and trying to understand what's going on. He's possibly getting a bit mixed up in some stuff, because 4 says I get introverted and maybe a little hurt. I need to fathom out what I'm doing, and I don't know, maybe he's just getting hooked up into something. Who knows? He could be a person who wants to take a bit of drugs or whatever. I can't say that for sure, I don't know the man. But all I know is that he's going for 16 sevens after these 2 very intense years. But that's not all. This time with black, around that one, we've now got another condition to look at, because the combiner between 6 and 7 is 13. What do you think's happening to this guy? He's probably trying to find a lucky break, trying to find maybe a relationship here. Maybe he's getting involved in some stuff he can't really handle. And guess what? The next year he gets some freedom forced upon him. Why do I say forced? Because 7 over 7 equals the number 5. It says freedom, and unfortunately for him, it's another double figure, 7 over 7, which I'll box as well. When you start to analyse it after you've done the chart as I've done here, you start to realise there's a lot of complexity in this person's chart that you haven't looked at before. What we can do here, we can go into the months, but that's not for this particular part of the chart. What I need you to do is to start to realise that after you've done Robert Edward Smith in your own right, do it on paper, and then start to look at the chart as I've been able to bring it out this way from his names as you know how to do. And we're going to start to analyse this the way that I've done it. The more I write in here, the more complex it starts to look, which is why I need you to start to take some time and slowly go through it as I built it up from the beginning. So watch this over and over and over a few times and you'll start to grab it. There are possibly other things in here which I haven't seen. No, not too problematic. I don't want to go into too much more detail, and there is a lot more detail in here that I haven't covered, a lot more. So let's leave that at that for the moment. The guy has been leading up to a condition which has caused him some grief, financial probably, maybe forced to move. Here's his freedom with some new stuff to do here. He wants some compassion and love back in his life, because 1 and 6 are the love me and I care and I want. There's 16 sevens, doing the wrong stuff maybe. Troubled environment with relationships, home, some responsibility, work maybe. And then this freedom aspect here, which could be grief again. What kind of grief? I can speculate. 8. He could be so stubborn and strong-willed and determined. This guy here could end up potentially in a dangerous situation with the legals out there. I might be completely wrong here, but I don't think so. Just watching this guy going through some grief. And another little aspect to look at is his 38th year. 3 and 8 is an 11 number. The guy's not really with it. Things aren't going too well. If you can understand what I've just done here, and please go over the tape again, you're doing okay. Muchas gracias. Peter Warren signing out for this one.